Welcome to the Everyday Creative Podcast. We are two creatives that will discuss our own creative journeys, mental health, and a little bit of everything in between. Oh yeah, we're married too. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back to the Everyday Creative Podcast. I'm Cameron.
And I'm Bryce.
And welcome to episode
6.
Now we're on episode 6.
We are.
And we're going to do our Q&A part 2
We
today.
had so many questions last week that we decided to split it into 2 episodes because who wants to watch a 3-hour video of us talking?
Yeah. So if we didn't answer your question last week, we're not ignoring your question. We didn't plan to split it into 2 parts. But like you said, we had a lot of content. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe we should start doing that in general.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot and
we have some shorter episodes.
Yeah, we have a lot to say. So maybe instead of spending one long episode talking about a subject, we'll do one day of recording, but we'll split it into 2 different parts or something like that, so that we can give the best viewing experience, as well as we can continue to make podcasts and manage it and all of that. So this might not be the first time that we do this, where we'll come on here and then we'll go back in time a little bit into different outfits for the day and then do the main section of our podcast. So if y'all are cool with that, that's probably what we'll start doing. So yeah.
Cool.
What kind of creative were you this week?
I was a new creative.
A new creative.
Not a nude creative, but a new creative.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. No, I'm just kidding.
I started a new job this week.
Yeah.
At a creative agency.
So fun.
Yeah. So I've just been, doing the new job thing, getting onboarded, but it's been exciting. I'm super stoked.
Seems like a good fit.
Yeah. How about you? What kind of creative were you?
I would say I'm a little bit of an inspired creative.
Yeah.
I've been watching these YouTube videos that are like this, like, it's like Mr. Kate, if anybody knows. But she and her husband do a bunch of like on budget, like renovations.
Yeah.
But she's a very colorful human being. Like she likes color.
Okay.
And so like they just like bought an island. This series started like 2 years ago, but I'm just now getting into it. But they bought an island home and they're making it very colorful. And I don't know, it was like watching her and her creative process, like halfway through, I'm always like, how is this going to come together? And then it does, and it looks amazing. But she's so free with what she does. Even like she paints and like makes different art, and it's like none of it's perfect, like none of it's to scale, none of it's perfect, but it comes out looking perfect. But she's just like throwing paint here and there, and that's inspiring, because I think sometimes we just don't need limits, and we don't need to be like, oh well, this doesn't look like what somebody else could make, but it's what you can make.
I totally agree.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah. But I got a little bit of a story time.
Okay.
Short story, not very long. But
let's see how short it actually is.
What are you trying to say over there, Bryce? I did this for you, okay? So, as we talked about last week, that was a really dramatic, like, hair behind the ear thing. You have to, like, zoom in on that. But last week, if you listen to our Q&A, you mentioned that you drink vitamin water more than you drink normal water.
I do.
So I went grocery shopping this week and I had to pick you up some vitamin water. Now I get to the vitamin water. Well, I'm like coming up on it, and like with my cart. That's what I was doing.
Your buggy.
My like lawnmower, my cart. So, and I was like, oh no, they're out of them. But then as I get closer, I see there's like a 6-pack or whatever in the way back.
That's the worst.
Like all the way back on the shelf.
I don't know why people push them to the back.
Well, so they can put more.
Yeah, but I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also there was like a sale, so it's always like barely any left. Like I'm sure there's other people who wanted to buy that, but you can't reach it. It's like, okay. So I like stood on my tippy toes and I was like trying to reach it. Couldn't get it. So I was like, okay, let me stand on the bottom shelf, which like I'm not a fan of doing because I feel bad, but I was like, I have to get these vitamin waters. So I stood on the bottom shelf, still too short. And there's this like older lady in the aisle. And I thought she saw me trying to do this. So I like turned around and I smiled and I'm like, I guess I'm too short. And she was like, what are you trying to get? And I was like, the vitamin water up there. And she goes, oh, I don't think I can help you, because she was like shorter than me. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go try to find something to get this vitamin water. So I walk away and I go over to the gardening section. I was like, there's got to be something long enough for me to like scoop it out. And I see a shovel. So I take the shovel and I walk back over
I wish I could have seen this.
To the vitamin water. I had to get my husband some vitamin water. So I was on a mission. And the older lady's still over at the same place. So I come over and I take the shovel and I stand on like my tippy toes and I like scoop it out. And she's like, well, I guess where there's a will, there's a way. I think I made her day. I entertained her and I was successful. You got me the vitamin water. So you better enjoy every single one that you drink. No, I'm just kidding. But I had to, I like got the little plastic part like stuck in the shovel and pulled it out. And
wow. I'm impressed.
I think I proved to her that, you know what? Us young people can problem solve too when it comes to getting our vitamin water.
I love that.
So for any of the listeners out there, if you feel like you just, there's always a way.
There's always a way.
You might just need to get a shovel from the gardening section, and I don't know what you're going to do with that shovel.
That's your business, not ours.
Yeah, but so that's how I got your vitamin water this week.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
We were talking about accents earlier.
Oh, accents.
Because we were curious if we have accents.
Yeah, if you're listening out in the internet world, do we have accents?
Do our accents, if everybody has an accent, I feel like most people, because you're just from different areas. So do our accents sound the same or do they sound different?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Accents are interesting.
They're so interesting. Like dialects, accents.
What's your favorite accent? Put it in the comments below.
Put it in the comments
below. I'd love to know.
Yeah.
I like a good Boston accent. British accent.
Australian.
Give the people a little...
Nope. The minute you asked me to do it, it went away. My mouth doesn't know how to do it.
Your butthole clenched and you're like, nope.
What? Why did you say it that way? Oh my goodness. Okay. So maybe we should just move on from this topic. All right. Let's do a random generated question. Oh man. You gotta tell me what the number is, baby.
Oh. Hey Siri. Pick a number between 1 and 50. 38.
38. If you could pick a day to relive over and over again, which would it be?
Our wedding day.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, look at that. Cutest couple on the internet right here.
Honestly, I know everybody says that, like best day of your life or whatever. Yeah. But it genuinely was. Because that was probably the only day that I was like the least anxious I've ever been. And it was just so pretty up where we got married. And it was fun for us because we kept it really low key.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a big party, but we just had a nice ceremony. And it's just all about us getting married. And then we kicked everybody out. So because we got married in an Airbnb. Highly recommend.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, make sure to get approval before you do it. But yeah, we got married in an Airbnb, a very small wedding. And we we kicked everybody out. And so we had the evening to ourselves. And we watched the sunset in a hot tub.
Oh, yeah.
And it was awesome.
It was a great time.
It was, yeah, the whole day was just very beautiful.
Would totally recommend.
Yeah. So, our wedding day.
Yeah.
Any other day?
What if I said a totally different day?
I wouldn't have been upset.
I'm trying to think if there's any other day that I would relive.
Our first date, I would relive.
Yeah, our first.
That was so.
I would relive our first
nice.
date. That was perfect.
Yeah. Or just like any of our first dates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That was a very like, not serious question, but not goofy question.
Nice to the point answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Moving on to the fan favorite section. Lights.
Camaryn.
Action.
I thought you were just pointing at me because my name is Camaryn.
True.
Because I am Camaryn.
It is the fan voted favorite part of the show.
And the only person who voted was
the
Bryce.
fans. So, last week, we watched Shawshank Redemption, which was part of the 1994 Oscar Best Picture race and did not win. This week, we watched the 1994 Oscar Best Picture winner, Forrest Gump.
Which I admit that it is crazy that I've never watched it.
Yeah, insane.
I know it. So don't tell me I know it.
Let me pull up some facts because I did not
This is real time.
This is real time.
In real time,
They're
going
seeing it, so keep vamping.
Okay.
Keep going. Yeah.
But I will say this.
Got it.
So
So
I really was gonna say something, but you go ahead.
Oh no.
I'll save it.
What were you gonna say?
No, I'll save it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Forrest Gump came out in 1994, as stated before. It was directed by Robert Zemeckis. He is well known in the world of movie directing because he has directed things such as Back to the Future. Great film.
Which we just watched that too.
We did.
I don't know if we've ever said that on the pod.
We did not.
Yeah, we just watched Back to the Future.
That was your first viewing.
Yep.
That was probably my 16th viewing. Mm-hmm. The screenplay was by Eric Roth, a pretty legendary screenwriter. It was adapted from the novel by Winston Groom. It stars Tom Hanks, everybody's favorite American dad. Isn't that what he's called? The America's Dad?
Never heard that.
Oh. I thought, okay.
So if Taylor Swift's mom, then does that...
Oof, I don't know about that. Wow, wouldn't that be a crazy movie? Tom Hanks and Taylor Swift?
No.
Okay. Tom Hanks plays Forrest Gump. Rebecca Williams plays... this is in the weirdest order. I'm just going to go with
why?
The nurse at the park bench is not a main character, but she is listed second.
Because it's the when they show up, the order of which they show up. She's the second person to get introduced.
I see.
We don't even know her name though.
Nurse at park bench is played by Rebecca Williams. Sally Field is Mrs. Gump. We have let's see. Robin Wright is Jenny. Who else? Who else is of significance?
The lieutenant.
Mykelti Williamson is Bubba. Mm. We've got Lieutenant Dan by Gary Sinise. And that's honestly kind of like the most popular people. Mm-hmm. Yes. So people loved it. It has an 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
8.8 out of 10.
Yes.
So that's like a 4.4 out of 5.
You say what you're going to say. I'm going to look up the Rotten Tomato score.
So here's the misconception I think about Forrest Gump. At least what I always heard. That Forrest Gump is a running movie. But it's not really a running movie.
It's not at all.
But I feel like, because I was a runner, like cross country and all that, competitive runner. And I feel like it was like kind of like appreciated in that world, but it's not really a running movie.
Not a running movie.
That is a part of it, but not like, it's different, you know?
Yeah.
So that is a
All right, and we're back. The camera died. So I don't know where the camera left off, but I'll just start with my not fast.
Say that 5 times.
My not fast facts. Anywho, I don't have any because I didn't prepare anything. But there was a Forrest Gump sequel in the works. Weird. And it got canceled because of 9/11. Because, spoiler alert, Jenny dies. Mm-hmm. And the sequel would have followed Forrest Gump through more American events.
Historic events.
And eventually he starts dating an indigenous woman. And he would be at the place because there was that indigenous bombing that happened.
Okay.
And he would have been there. And then like 9/11 happened. And then they were just like, no.
It just got a little too carried away.
It got too much and they canceled it. If you want to look at what actually like happened, you can Google it. There's articles out there, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So that
Tom Hanks was in that.
Tom Hanks was in it. So there's the main book, Forrest Gump, and then after the movie came out, the author of the book wrote a sequel to the book about Forrest Gump. And then in the book, it gets super meta. In the book, Forrest Gump meets Tom Hanks.
Weird.
It gets really weird.
So here's my opinion on that.
Yes.
In most, we've talked about this before, but in most cases, I feel like if there is especially if it's like based on a book or something, and there is expected to be sequels and like a trilogy or whatever, like because there's that much of content already, it usually means that there could be good ones, right? Yeah. Like it's just a better chance of it being good. And I'm taking this conversation, High School Musical is out of this conversation, just so you know, because they're all great. Okay, so just putting that on the this is not relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
But when you have like a movie that like blows up and is so great, and then somebody's like, well, let's make a second one, it's usually not very good.
There's a few exceptions, but a lot of the time, yeah, they're not as good.
So glad that got canceled. Yes. Because I feel like then it could taint the original.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad the second Forrest Gump didn't get made.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, since we're talking about him in history, I thought that was like hilarious. Like, especially, I think the funniest one because throughout the movie, Forrest Gump somehow happens to be at all of these like major historical events. And I think that that was okay to do. Well, I guess this was made in the 90s, but like maybe there was enough time between. But the one that is the funniest to me.
What's your favorite?
Is whenever he like calls security or whatever and is like, there's some men at this hotel, like
the power must be out.
Yeah, like they've got like flashlights and stuff for the like the Watergate or whatever. And that one I like actually laughed out loud. I like looked at you
like that one
because it's so funny, because it's like obviously that's not how it happened, but they're basically giving Forrest Gump credit for like them being caught, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that one was really funny. But yeah, that one, I thought it was just like a fun addition to the story that he's in all of these like major events.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Did you like it more or less than the Shawshank?
Get into that.
Okay.
But what's your rating? What's your review? Out of 5.
I go back and forth on this movie. I think that I would give it a 4.5 out of 5.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like maybe a 90 out of 100. It's a classic. You can't get around it. The storytelling is brilliant. I think Tom Hanks is acting his butt off. Like he's killing it. I don't like the Jenny character really. There's a lot of depth to the Jenny character, but I don't really like her. But Robin Wright's really killing it. My favorite character is Lieutenant Dan. I love Lieutenant Dan because of the depth and the kind of the arc that his character goes on.
I think it looks really good.
It does.
That's why I would give it a 4.5 based on like how it looks, and we've like looked up some things about like Lieutenant Dan and how they...
Yeah, they were doing some advanced visual effects in
Yeah.
the 90s.
So, like, you got to give them credit.
Yeah, it looks great. Even when they're in Vietnam, they're not actually in Vietnam, but it looks like you can...
Oh,
it's
yeah,
believable.
like, it doesn't take you out of it. The soundtrack is really cool.
Oh.
Especially how, like, the music also moves the story along in, like, the time period.
Yeah.
Because it brings in more...
Alan Silvestri did the score for it.
Oh, cool.
And he also did the Avengers score.
There you go. So, yeah, I really did like it.
Yeah.
I understand why it's like
It's a classic. An American classic.
Yeah, any other questions about the movie?
Not really.
I don't think that there's anything I specifically like really didn't like. Like you had said, I don't really like Ginny's character, but she did have a rough childhood, and the whole point is to kind of see how that caused her life to unravel. But I kind of wish that was developed a little bit more, because it's like there's references to why she does what she does, but there's no like her character doesn't come to that recognition, at least for the audience to see. But at the same time, I don't know if they did that because we're kind of getting to experience her from like Forrest's point of view, and so there's like a limited understanding of like the emotional depth of what she's gone through. But I will say, just like we talked about last week, with this movie, there's a level of disbelief that you have to have.
There is.
But it's also, they kind of do it in a way where it's very obvious. It's like, well, obviously he wasn't at this event. Or like, but even like he makes it through like the hurricane or whatever, and then he got success. Like he went to the White House like 3 times. Like
he became a world famous ping pong player.
Yeah. Like you have to have like some, but the writers did it in a way where it was like almost like satirical in a way. Like
kind
it was
of.
Almost, maybe that's not the right word.
Like fantastical.
But like they weren't trying to make it seem believable. They knew that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So.
But they wrote it in such a way where we buy into it.
Yeah.
Even though it's so fantastical and unbelievable.
Yeah.
We buy into it.
Yeah. So back to your question.
Yes.
Which movie, Shawshank Redemption or Forrest Gump, do I like better?
Yeah.
What's your guess?
I think you liked Shawshank better. I think. What did you like better?
Why do you think that?
I don't know. Just watching you watch each movie, I got a feeling that you liked Shawshank better, but I'm not sure. What did you like better?
So you asked me this question right after we watched Forrest Gump, and I honestly couldn't tell you. But then today, I made the decision that I like Shawshank Redemption better.
Why?
I think, well, why is it based on how I watched it? I'm curious. How did I watch it differently?
I like watching you watch a movie. And you were definitely less, not that you weren't into it, but you were less plugged in, I guess. Shawshank, you were in it the entire time. And Forrest Gump, it was like you were like 90% there.
Yeah. I think that part of the reason is maybe because it, in a lot of ways, even though we talked about how there's levels that you have to have like of the disbelief or whatever, in a lot of ways, I think Shawshank Redemption, the themes are very grounded, which there's grounded themes in Forrest Gump as well, but maybe not relevant to the everyday person's like experience. So I think I loved the dialogue in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Like I loved the moments where there was just 2 people talking.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what sets it apart. Obviously, with like, you can't do that necessarily with the story of Forrest Gump. Like I know that. But yeah, I think I just really loved like the dialogue and how, like I said last week, like you walked away from Shawshank Redemption feeling hopeful.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like there was nothing specifically that I was like feeling hopeful of, But I don't think it's the same. I think Forrest Gump, you walk away feeling like it's almost heartwarming.
Yes.
But not necessarily the same. It really wraps it up in a pretty bow. Like,
it does.
It's like Shawshank Redemption can kind of extend outside of just the story itself, where Forrest Gump is the story.
There's a beginning and an end.
And the themes don't really extend out of that specific story and those specific characters. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think that's one of the reasons that stood apart. I also, like, again, I bring this up, but I'm so impressed with Shawshank's Redemption's ability to tell a story and to specify scenes and character building without going all these crazy places. Mm-hmm. Whereas that's how they told the story in Forrest Gump. Because it's like, okay, now we're him as a kid. Now we're in the University of Alabama. Now we're in Vietnam. Now we're in the White House. Now, like, every location change was the way they moved the story along. So there's less dialogue in Forrest Gump. So they use the change of scenery and the change of time or events to move the story along. So it's very, like, quick paced into the next event. Whereas Shawshank Redemption's a slower, but yet I was more engaged.
Yeah.
Because there was more conversation and dialogue and character building happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on the whole Shawshank versus Forrest Gump thing. I'm a big Shawshank fan. I just love the writing, and it's just so strong. And not that Forrest Gump, because like we've said before, there are movies that you can watch and you don't need to really take anything from it. But the messages of Shawshank are just so strong. And I don't feel like I gained a really strong message out of Forrest Gump. It's a fun watch. You laugh, you cry. It's a whole plethora of fun, and it takes you out of life.
Cry. Did you cry?
I didn't cry this past viewing. I have cried before. When? Whenever he meets his son for the first time, that gets me a little bit. That's about it, maybe, actually. But
I think.
Oh, whenever Lieutenant Dan shows up to his wedding.
That's sweet.
You got new legs.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Their relationship, I like. Its growth throughout. What was I gonna say?
I forgot about this part in the movie, but I love when they're on the fishing boat and Lieutenant Dan's up on the top of the ship and it's storming. He's like angry. He's like yelling. He's like, "Come at me, take." Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really realized that Lieutenant Dan was my favorite character.
But like, I think for me, now having watched Forrest Gump, like I feel content.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I would like to watch Shawshank Redemption again. Yeah. Like, I think it would be something where every time you watch it, you pick up on new themes, you pick up on new things, and it would be like a movie that you could enjoy over and over again. So that's, I think, yeah. I'd
be interested to watch at some point Pulp Fiction with you.
Pulp Fiction.
Yes, because that is also a 1994 movie that was nominated for Best Picture. And it's interesting because there's so many, these three specifically are so different. Pulp Fiction's the very like
pulpy.
It's very artisan and indie because it's Quentin Tarantino. It's one of his first films. And then you have The Shawshank Redemption. It's more of a dramatic, but it's like kind of like a big studio film kind of. And then you have Forrest Gump, which is like the blockbuster summer movie. I don't know if it came out in summer or not, but like that big movie that everybody goes to. So it's like the small indie film that now like has this huge following and cult following. This bigger studio film that didn't do well, but now everybody loves. And this huge movie that everybody loved and then hated and then loved. And now it's kind of mixed.
Yeah. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
But all are great.
All are great.
And all have stood the test of 30 years.
It's insane to me that they are 30 years old.
Well, that's the thing. Forrest Gump, that's why I also have to give credit where it's due, because like I don't know if I would think that it is. Like it really looks crisp, like not it's film, but like, do you know what I mean? The colors.
It's so weird because, like I was telling you, I watched Forrest Gump and it looks timeless and it holds up today. The CGI, like the visual effects hold up today. They look better than most Marvel movies today because they recently. Like, I'm not talking about the 2014 Winter Soldier and all that. I'm talking
We're
like
talking about
the Marvels.
The last Ant-Man.
Oh, goodness gracious. That was atrocious. So bad. But we could have a whole podcast trashing Marvel. But
we're Marvel fans, though.
I love Marvel. I'm such a hardcore Marvel fan, but I can recognize that they're not in the strongest point right now. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that, but just to say that it's incredible that these movies hold up to the day. Mm-hmm. You can plop them on and
so the question again is, will movies that are being made today last 30 years?
I think I've actually thought about that question since you posed it last week. I think films that are made with a deft hand and with intention will. But ones that are made for money and just kind of instant gratification movies, they won't last. But ones that have a real story, they'll last the test of time.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's get right into
the questions.
Q&A part 2.
Outfit change in 3.
It's like, I feel like we need to do the like transition.
1.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next section, which is questions for just you.
Cool.
So, Bryce.
Yeah.
What is one photography gadget, not a camera or lens, that you can't live without?
That's really tough. I'm looking at my desk. I guess film would kind of go with essential photography, but I'm not going to say film. I would say a good strap. I need a good strap, but I think a good strap is what I would need.
Support the...
Yeah. Maybe some filters.
Yeah. I want to know, though, what is your like go-to lens / camera that you wouldn't want to live without?
Go-to camera that I wouldn't want to live...
I'm adding to the question.
Yeah. For photography, if you just give me a film camera, it doesn't matter because really film cameras, all it does is it's a shutter, so it's fine. But the lens, either 28 millimeters or 50 millimeters for film. I really love 35 millimeters, but I don't own one right now. So yeah, either a 28 millimeter lens or a 50 millimeter lens. And Kodak Portra 800 film stock. Yeah, that's go-to.
Bryce, do you still do freelance photography? If so, it would be a dream to have my college senior photos taken on film.
That was submitted anonymously, so I'd love if whoever you are, reach out.
For real?
Yeah. I would really love for whoever that is to reach out.
Yeah, that would be right up your alley.
Well, that's really funny because they're like, hey, do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know who to reply to.
Yeah.
So I hope.
So hopefully they watch the podcast. And if you do, just DM Bryce directly.
Yes.
Because.
So yes, I do freelance photography.
Yeah.
And B, yes, I would love to take your photos. C, on film. What? Okay, cool. Let's just hope I don't lose the role. So DM me.
Yeah, no, that's something you want to like get into more of, like professional film photography.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So hit me up. So moving on to questions for you. Camaryn, you mentioned you love skincare in a pod. What is your favorite skincare item?
I feel like I have to like call out my sister here because I know my sister sent in that question, and like I don't do much with like skincare. I'm not like a skincare.
You're just flawless.
I'm not a skincare girly, you know what I mean? Like if you're on like there's like skincare people on social media that are like, these are the best skincare brands and like really expensive skincare. Yeah. I'm not about to break the budget on that. Like I think my skin's very important. I need to take care of it. But I can find alternatives that are just...
But what's the one thing that if I took away you couldn't live without?
Honestly, I said this before. The vitamin C serum that I have. It's like an oil, and which I know everybody's like, oil on my skin. But for me, I've learned that I have really dry skin. Yeah. And I have very sensitive skin as well. So like all the face washes that I use are like for gentle, sensitive skin. And if my face is dry, I will break out. Yeah. So I need to moisturize. And sometimes that means my face might be a little shiny, but to me it's fine because I don't have a big pimple, you know what I'm saying? Well,
you need to get me on a good skincare routine because
Clearly, because you got rosy cheeks.
It's because I used your lotion.
Okay, so I'm going to explain that in a second. But I'll say this. I do a very simple skincare routine. Please don't come at me if you are like a... But I just use like, I guess, do a nice cleanser, which is like a face wash, people, okay? Like, I do a nice face wash in shower or at night and at night. Make sure you wash your face at night, people.
I don't break out.
Yeah, but you have all the oils from the day and then you're laying on your pillow and that's not okay. So anyways, wash your face. I'd say morning, but like it's after I work out. And then put on a toner, put on the vitamin C serum, and then which brightens and I think it moisturizes. And then put on a moisturizer with SPF because you're white and you'll burn. Because we're protecting our skin out here, people. We've learned from our parents that we need to protect our skin. And then I just do the same thing at night as well, except I don't put the toner on.
See, that's where it went wrong with me. I can't wear moisturizers.
No. Listen. Okay. That moisture, it's not the SPF that caused your face to dry up. I got the wrong moisturizer because we're on a budget here, people. That moisturizer is a barrier for your face against, like, I've already done the things to moisturize with the vitamin C and stuff. Yeah. And the moisturizer helps too, but like that's a barrier from all the things that are going to come on my face throughout the day. So I just get like a off-brand one. Yeah. But I couldn't find the one that I thought I found the one that I normally do, but I didn't. And I realized I did an oil-based. Yeah. Or not an oil-based. No oil. No oil in it. And so I guess it's like a water-based. It doesn't do the job. No. But guess what? I used it all. I'm almost done with it because, again, I'm trying to do everything like, I'm trying to be, whatever. But I think that's why it didn't work for you and why your skin got so dry, because it doesn't have that element that you need to really moisturize your skin. I get all of my stuff at Target for like, it's not that expensive. So I'm not a skincare girly. So yeah.
Camaryn, you mentioned you like to bake. What is your favorite thing to make?
Yes, I love baking. It's the only time that my brain shuts off from the rest of the world. My famous dessert is carrot cake.
My favorite.
It's Bryce's favorite. It's a family favorite. It's pretty famous. Yeah. Also, my Kentucky Derby pie is pretty famous among. One of my favorite things to bake because I really love to eat it. Yeah. Is tres leches. And some people might be like, what does she know? I brought it to my Spanish class in high school. Yeah. And all the native speakers, which is what we called them in, Hispanic people in our class, all the native speakers were very surprised that I was the one who made it. So they said I won extra points with them. But I love it. It's like I like the process of making it a lot. I'm trying to think. What do I like to make, Bryce? A lot of things.
Cookies.
Cookies I don't like to make. I
No?
like to eat them, and I love cookies, but it's actually like a time-consuming process because you make the batter. That's easy.
Yeah.
Cookies are easy to make, but then you have to like every 10 minutes put
Change
in
them.
a new
Yeah.
batch of cookies, and it's like, what can I really get done between? Like, it just feels like you're always up on your feet all day
Yeah.
baking cookies because you usually have so many rounds of
It's a lot.
baking. So, yeah, carrot cakes by far, it's like comes naturally to me now.
That's the best one. So, moving into questions for us as a couple, we'll start out with the personal life ones and then move into the creative ones. So, the first one is, you two are so cute. How did y'all meet? How long were you together before getting married? So, thanks for calling us cute. It means the world. How did we meet?
We worked together.
We did. We worked at a church together.
We did.
And we just became friends.
Yeah, I think we didn't like become friends. So I'll give the long story because Bryce would just give the short story. We met the summer of 2020.
Yes.
And this was when I was planning on still going off to college, going away to college. We met very briefly, and then we started to work on a project together.
Yeah.
Like one time. It was like not very much. You know, thought he was nice. Didn't think much about it.
Yeah.
Fast forward like 6 months. That's when we started serving at a ministry together.
Yeah.
Like I was working. That was part of my job, but you were just like volunteering.
Yeah.
And that's where we really became friends.
That's where our friendship was fostered.
So it's interesting, just like when you think about stories and things like that. It was like, it wasn't the first time that we met each other that we really hit it off as friends. Like we thought we were nice, but it wasn't until later when we spent more time around each other that we were like, oh, we're friends. And we were friends for a very long time. We were friends for, okay, so if that would have been like, let's just say it was like April of 2021 that we became friends.
Yeah, March or April of 2021.
And we were friends for like almost two years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. A year? 2 years?
A year?
I don't know.
We were friends
years.
for a while.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
And then we
Started dating in
August of
2022.
2.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was only like a year and a half actually.
August 2022, we started dating.
We dated for 11 months.
Yep.
And got married. So we got engaged after 5 months.
Yes. And then got married July 21st of 2023.
We had a very short engagement.
Yes.
And a pretty short dating relationship. But here's what I'll say about that.
Yeah.
I always wanted to marry my best friend. And being friends with somebody first, highly recommend. I think it's the best way to do it. There's a lot of other ways to do it, which are great too. But by the time we started dating, we knew each other.
Yeah.
A lot about each other.
We did.
And so there wasn't that like get to know you phase. Like we already knew each other.
Yeah.
And so now it was just getting to know each other in a different way, which is dating.
Yeah.
But we already had that foundation in our friendship already built. So that's why our relationship moved pretty quickly. And when you know, you know.
When you know, you know.
Was that all the questions? Well, there were like multiple
yeah, it was, how did we meet? How long were we together before we were married?
Yeah. So 11 months.
Yes. What is your favorite thing about one another?
Nothing.
It's taking you a long time to find something.
Okay. Do you know?
I do.
Well, you've had time. This is the first time I've heard this question.
No, I knew.
Okay, you got it.
My favorite thing about you is probably the thing that some people don't like about you. You are in the best possible way, very emotional. You can get loud and opinionated, but those are my favorite things about you. I love that you know who you are.
I'm still learning. We are ever changing.
Yes, we are evolving creatures.
So we have to continue to keep learning.
But I love that you are like, you have an opinion. You always have an opinion. It's not like you're not wishy-washy. You have a stance, and I like that. I like that I know how you're feeling. I don't have to guess.
Nope.
I love how emotional you are because it's not like you can't feel like you're not, there's no lack of emotion with you. So I love that. And that means like when you love really like extravagantly. And when you're sad, you're really sad, which makes me sad. But I love that you're like, I don't know. That's my favorite part about you. One of my favorite parts.
That's sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know that sometimes you don't like that about yourself, but I love it.
It can be hard to be emotional sometimes.
Whoa, yeah.
And feel like some people would be like, well, then just stop being emotional. That's not how that works.
Yeah. And I like that you get loud. Like whenever you get very passionate about something,
my volume goes up.
The volume goes up. I've seen
my hands get a little, I talk a little bit more. I've
seen on this podcast, because I edit this podcast, when you get emotional about something or like passionate, I have to bring the volume down. But then most of the time on the podcast is very low. But then you get you on one thing and it's like,
yeah.
But I love that about you.
Yeah.
So what about me?
Well, Bryce, you are my best friend.
You are my best friend.
And I appreciate I think it's so funny because I think the things that we love the most about each other are also some of the hardest things about each other.
Yeah.
Like how my emotions can be sometimes difficult in a relationship. And but I love the way that you view the world and life, even though, again, you don't love it. But I think you think about things so critically and so deeply, and it has challenged me to also think about those things. I also think that's one thing. I know that it's hard for you to operate with the mind that you have sometimes, because I believe that your mind's very unique. But I've always wanted to understand that. Yeah. And be there for you.
And you're the person that's gotten the closest to figuring it out.
Yeah, and there's still moments
there's still 90% left.
Yeah. But at least I'm 10% there. Yeah. But I think that just understanding your thought process and things, and the more I've learned about you, I appreciate that. I also think you're hilarious. You're goofy.
I am goofy.
And it makes me laugh. And it brings joy to my life. And I love that. What?
They don't know.
No, you don't get to see.
But I be goofy sometimes. A lot of the time.
Sometimes just flat out weird.
I know. When I get super lovey with you.
You just get weird.
I cross this boundary and it's bad. I get really weird.
Yeah, I have to tell you to calm down.
Yeah, you're like, Bryce, I know that you love me.
This is not making me feel loved right now. Oh, here's the thing about Bryce. This is a little insight. When we first were friends, I'm the one person who caught on to his deflecting.
Oh, stop. Now they know.
He can't deflect with me.
I know. I like to deflect.
Yeah, but you can't with me. I still call you out sometimes when you try. But you're a very kind person. Yes. And you care a lot about people.
Too much.
Yeah, we both care a lot about people. But you have people's best interests at heart. Yeah. And so that means that you do the right thing, and you're you have a strong character because you value other people, you value the impact that your decisions have on other people as well. Which I think it's kind of interesting, the qualities I was looking for in a person. I am not a fan of making lists for your future husband. especially when those lists are like, he has to be 6 feet tall and all that. I'm like, girlfriend, no. But I will say, I think it's important to, when you understand your personality, to look for characteristics in people that are going to benefit you.
Yeah.
And I think some of those things were like character.
Yeah.
I think part of that character too is like, just bragging on my husband, is like, you are confident, but I always said like I wanted somebody with like a quiet confidence, because I can be very loud and opinionated, but you can, when you speak, you're not always saying things, but when you speak, it's valuable. Does that make sense? Like when we're in a setting, most of the time I do most of the talking when we're having like conversations with people, but the minute you say something, everybody in that room knows that it's valuable. And that's like, I think that just shows your character. I don't know. Does any of that make you feel loved at all?
Yes. I said, you're making me feel all loved over here. I'm like, you're loud.
Because I love you.
But I love you.
I know you love the loudness is not just when I'm emotional. It's just when I'm passionate about things. It's when I'm being funny.
Yeah, you're extremely funny. Call me goofy. You're very goofy too. You're goofy.
I'm clever.
I don't know.
Here's the thing though. Did that question kind of like trip you up at first?
My favorite thing about you?
Yeah. Because it made me actually like think, because we spend so much time together.
What the people at home don't realize is from the moment we wake to the moment we close our eyes.
I'm talking to him the whole time.
Yes.
But I think sometimes when you're like consistently with that person, you kind of like, if somebody would have asked me that while we were dating, I would have been like, boom, 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 boom. But it made me take a step back and realize like, man, I take for granted these things about you that elevate my life and that I fell in love with in the first place, and that I value in who you are because I'm just used to them.
Yeah, I agree. I had to like really think.
There's going to be, as soon as we end this podcast, I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't say that and I didn't say that, and like all of these things. And
I get podcast brain.
I'm really glad you like to listen to me talk.
I do.
Because
I don't talk very much.
I haven't always had that. I love talking.
I'm a listener.
Yeah.
Very good listener.
You have to be if you're going to be married to me.
Okay, so what is a pet peeve that you have about the other person?
I don't want to expose you.
You can expose me.
No, but it's like the gross things that you do.
That's fine.
I'm like back here.
That's fine.
It's like the gross things.
What is it? Let the people know.
What do you think I'm going to say?
I'm trying to think. What do I do that's gross? Is it like the kitchen?
Okay, that's a whole different pet peeve. But yeah, I have a lot of issues with the kitchen. But that's why I just stay out of it.
I like that.
That I stay out of the kitchen. Because the amount of things that would stress me out that you do in there.
Yeah.
Like.
What?
You know how many times that I put away like dishes that you've hand washed? And I'm like, these are not clean. There's like caked on food still on them, Bubby.
It's okay.
I know you just think it's fine, like it'll be okay. But I'm like, whew. So yes, that would be a pet peeve.
Okay. What else? Not blowing my nose. I don't blow my nose. I have a scare. Wait, what? Is it not that?
I just said yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like blowing my nose. I feel like my head's going to explode.
Sometimes, here's the thing. Sometimes there's things that have bothered me that you've done, and I've told you, and so it's gotten better. So I appreciate that. Here's also the thing that I'm realizing, that I realized many months ago, is I come from all sisters. And so this is my first time living with a boy. And it's a little bit of a shift. Mm-hmm. Not that you're like gross or anything. You are thankfully a very cleanly person. And I appreciate that because it would make things more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think there's certain things like I'm a little bit more meticulous about or something that you're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And sometimes that helps me with like my anxious thoughts and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm like, okay, like there is a towel to dry your hands on, and there's a towel to clean the dishes with, and there's a towel to wipe while you're cooking. I think I'm just a hard person to live with, I guess.
No. You're easy to live with.
What's your pet peeve?
I don't have any.
Why'd you smile like that?
No, I'm trying to think. This was actually probably the hardest question.
You have to have a pet peeve.
What's something...
There can't be something that I do that doesn't bother you.
I'm trying to think.
Does my anxiety ever bother you?
No.
Yes, it does.
No.
Yes, it does.
No.
At the end of the day, the pet peeves that I have probably stem from my anxiety. Like,
yeah.
That's why I stay out of the kitchen, because I'm afraid that you're going to like cross-contaminate
yeah.
like raw chicken, and then I'm going to like die.
No, so like your anxiety isn't a pet peeve of mine, because I just know that you can't really control that. The
chicken thing.
The chicken thing, maybe.
I've done a lot better recently.
You have. You just don't watch.
Watch what?
Me handle chicken as much.
No, but I know that it was on the cutting board that you leave in the sink.
Yeah.
And I still fill up my water in the same sink.
On the whole other side. But yes, I am very proud of you that you're
That's
making
growth for me.
That is growth. Yeah. I don't really.
The chicken thing bothers you so much.
It's just chicken.
Because anytime I'm like, did you like clean the counter after you like put chicken there? And you're like, yes. But there's a lot of like, you have to take a deep breath before you answer me, which I know means you're like trying to be kind.
What's other things that you think that I have a pet peeve about? Because I feel like you would know better than me.
I feel like that's the biggest one. All of the issues come from the kitchen predominantly. Like there's nothing like in the bathroom that I feel like you would get weirded out. Oh. Cabinets. This is it doesn't bother you, but it's just kind of something unique to me. There's two things.
No, I find this more endearing than anything.
There's two things that will let you know that I was in a room.
Where are your socks? The socks are on the floor somewhere. She always takes her socks off.
And I throw them.
Yes. That doesn't bother me that much. I'm just like...
You pick them up then.
Yes.
I love you for that.
And cabinet doors and just doors, period, will be open.
Don't even say doors, period. You do the same thing. You don't ever click the door shut.
Yeah, that's true.
But yes, I leave cabinet doors open. I just move on to the next spot before my brain closes it. And then I will take my socks off and they'll be on the floor for the next 3 days until Bryce picks them up. That's the only thing I leave out around.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that you do like that too that don't bother me.
Yeah.
Like your pile of clothes in the room. Like I've just accepted it. I just put it away if it bothers me that bad. Like there's things you can choose to not let bother you.
But yeah, pet peeve, I don't really have that many.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Am I easy to live with or hard? That's a truth. You're like
You're really easy to live with. You're really easy to live with. Yeah.
You're easy to live with too.
But I've never really lived with anybody else. But you're really easy to live with. What is your favorite thing about...
You gotta put that in. I winked at Ashton. Okay.
Oh, okay. What is your favorite thing about being married so far?
Sorry, I was processing.
What's your favorite
thing about being married so far? Never having to say goodbye at the end of the day.
That's true. Yeah, I like falling asleep next to you.
Yes. For sure, one of my favorite things. Quality time is a big love language of mine, so yes. I like to spend time with you. I think also creating like our own home and environment and traditions and Bryce is a really good cook, so I really like his food. And he also makes sure I eat, not because I don't want to, but because I get distracted and then I don't eat.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are some of my favorite
things. I love falling asleep next to you.
Yeah.
I love being with you all the time. I love cooking for you. My favorite time is making you lunch. Yeah. Those are my favorite things.
I think like the other thing too is just like I feel like there's a sense of like I don't know if like freedom's the right word, but being in like a married relationship, just a sense of relief doesn't, I don't know what the right word is,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's so comfortable, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Something you both have wildly different opinions on. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. The ending of Dune.
That's what I was going to say. We actually argued about that.
We did. Not one of my proudest moments.
I also remember we had a big argument about something else too, which was stupid. But it's something that we have different opinion on. Not wildly different opinions
What's that?
on, but Taylor Swift.
Yes.
I've come around though.
You have come around a lot.
I don't come after me, any Swifties, because I enjoy Taylor Swift's music too, but I'm not like a huge fan of hers.
I am.
But Bryce is, and so like I wasn't really familiar with like Taylor Swift's new music and all of that, but like Bryce would like die for her type of thing.
I would not die for her. Well, no. Depends on the situation. Like it. Okay, sorry.
You're too deep.
I was getting way too deep.
Too deep.
I was getting too deep. There was like hostage situation sort of deal.
Too deep. But but I just don't like, even though I can like listen to Taylor Swift's music, we watched the Eras Tour movie together. Mm-hmm. Like, but I won't consider myself a Swiftie. I can appreciate Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy her music. When I was growing up, loved to listen to Taylor Swift. But I'm just not like I'm not gonna like freak out every time she drops an album type of thing. Not to rehash it, but I felt like Bryce didn't understand my thoughts on it.
I understand.
So again, don't come after me.
Yes.
But it's just our differing opinion on that.
But I'm a big Swiftie, so. But
I don't feel like anything on like a deep like.
No.
Like something that could actually cause issues. No.
Something of substance, I don't think.
No, I think that we're friends because we have similar views on things. Yeah. Not that you can't have differing views, but...
Yeah. We'll keep you updated.
So last week, Bryce and I argued about...
Aliens. What is marriage advice you would give to newlyweds as newlyweds ourselves? Which I don't consider, like, I know that we are newlyweds.
Are we considered newlyweds till we hit a year?
I think so.
I can't wait to not be a newlywed.
4 more months.
I love being newlyweds with you, but I don't know.
Yeah. What's some advice?
Lots of things.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I would say is when you're a newlywed, mm-hmm. every experience and every experience that you have with your spouse, every thing that you face, every conversation that you have, it's all practice. And what I mean by that is that it is meant to teach you how to move forward in a better way. I think sometimes we get there's this pressure of this is what like a perfect relationship looks like, or this is what a marriage should look like. And crap, if we're 6 months in and we're having arguments, or if we're 6 months in and we can't get on the same page about something, that means that like the marriage is doomed. Yeah. Whereas I think from the beginning, I know my perspective, I think both of our perspectives was everything that we face together is going to teach us. Yeah. And it's going to help us move forward so that when we experience something like that again, we can face it stronger. Yeah. And so that's something like even like when we moved into this house together, that's the first move that we've done together. Yeah. It went really well. It did. But it teaches us like, okay, so for the next time that we're inevitably going to have to move or we're going to have to experience that such a big change in our lives, here's how we can do it together because we've learned things. Every time, the view I have about arguments is that every time that we argue, it's not something that we have to be ashamed of, but it's something that we can learn from. We came from 2 very different families when it came to arguments. Yeah. Mine, we fought. Yours didn't. And so we've had to learn how can we best communicate, because I don't want to go to a place where we're like yelling at each other. Yeah. But I also don't want us to just be like, to not actually communicate what we're feeling. And so every time that there's an argument, it's it is a way for us to learn how to communicate best with each other. And it's not something to be ashamed of or to be upset that arguments happen, because they will. But how can you have a calm conversation and express your thoughts and feelings? And every time we do it, we can get better at it.
Agreed.
So that's what I would say. I'd be like, don't expect it to be like, oh, you're going to be a perfect, like, you're living with this person now. It's going to change.
Yeah.
I also think that for people to scare, I don't think it's fair to scare people and say, like, marriage is hard. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Living with a person is hard. And that can impact your marriage and your relationship. But you can learn how to work through things.
Yeah, agreed.
I also think, I've got lots of advice. I also think, don't let small things, especially as your newlyweds, bother you. Like I said, with clothes. Like, if it bothers me, why can't I, as your wife, in a loving way, just put it away?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be an argument. It doesn't have to be a, like, nitpicking on things. It can just be, we can help each other out in the daily tasks and things like that.
Agreed.
Another advice, find your roles and be okay with them.
Yeah.
If, like, for example, I don't cook. Bryce cooks. And at first I used to feel bad about that, because I'm like, well, I feel like I should be helping in this area. Bryce loves it.
Yeah.
I don't love to cook. That's the best way. That's the best role that you have.
Yeah.
I clean. Because if you cleaned, it wouldn't, okay, yeah.
I would think I was doing a great job.
Right. But I'm a little bit more meticulous with it, so it fits better in our roles. And there's room to help. If you're busy, I can cook.
Yeah.
If I'm too busy, you can do some cleaning. Yeah. Like, there's room to move out of your roles, but be okay and figure out what specifically works for your relationship. Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything else. The only thing I was really going to say was the argument thing. Like, just figure out how to argue well and constructively. And
yeah, constructively is the word I couldn't find.
Yeah.
This is why we make a good team, people.
Yeah, argue constructively. You're going to argue. So just how you handle conflict and how you resolve that conflict is crucial. So all the other things that you said, I agree with, and I was going to say too. Couple creative questions.
Okay.
What has been the hardest thing so far about starting a podcast?
Doing it with Bryce. It's not like he does like most of the work. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like one of the hardest parts about filming a podcast is having to film it in a sauna.
I think it feels great in here.
It gets okay. So we have limited space in our first home together, and we make it work.
We do,
but it gets hot in here.
It does,
and as you know, our podcasts are pretty long because my bad. So that's just kind of a funny answer to that. I will say the preparation for a podcast is a lot more work than I think people would realize. Like, the amount of time we spent setting this up, figuring out what the like layout of our podcast would be, figuring out the vibe of our podcast, like, that took time.
Yeah.
Like, took like at least a month before we actually sat down to record our first episode. I don't think that planning the episodes is actually that difficult.
No.
Because it's fun to do, but the preparation of it.
Yep.
But what do you think?
I think putting yourself out there on the internet and all of that comes with that. I think that's hard.
I think that's true.
Editing this is hard.
Yeah, Bryce spends a lot of time
because the raw footage we get, there's 3 cameras and audio, and we take some breaks in between these segments, and the footage,
because our camera overheats because it's hot in here.
Yeah. So if the cameras die off, it's because they overheat. But we have like over 3 hours of content usually each week, and I have to whittle it down.
Yeah, we need to do better at that.
Yeah. So editing,
there's a possibility that this podcast is 2 parts.
Yes. Editing takes a while, but there's not that much hard.
Yeah, I think that it's hard putting yourself out there. Like, I agree with that, of like, we have to make conscious decisions every week that we post this, that we're doing it for us. and we're not doing it to get subscribers, to get views or anything like that. And as much as we appreciate that, this minute we start planning our podcast based on that is the minute that this doesn't become fun anymore.
Agreed. Do you have a go-to process for a creative block?
Walk away.
Yeah, honestly, that's kind of where I am. Like, if I'm feeling not creatively motivated, I just need to give it some time, let it sit, and either, if it's a day-by-day thing, just go to bed and wake up and
I know that can be hard because there could be deadlines in what you're creating and stuff like that. But I think if it's something that you're doing, especially where you have more control in it, allowing that process time. Like when you think about how you're going to create, give time to it so that you can have the time to walk away, to get inspired so that you can be inspired by what you're creating as well. So just don't frustrate yourself. The minute you frustrate yourself, the minute it becomes 10 times harder.
Agreed. If you could co-write, Bryce direct, and Camaryn produce a biopic on someone dead or alive, who would it be?
Who would it be?
Who would it be? Who would I want to make a biopic about? Do you have any ideas?
Nope.
No?
This is a great question, though. It gets us thinking. It is.
Because I want, if we made a biopic, I wouldn't want it to be one of these biopics that just a standard biopic. I don't want to do that. I would want to do some. I can't think of anybody, so this would be the stipulations for finding out who we would do it on. Somebody that is not known.
Okay.
So what comes to mind is somebody like Oppenheimer. Nobody really knew who he was. If you asked the mass audience before the movie came out, nobody would know who J. Robert Oppenheimer was. I know you're a history nerd, but if you asked the normal person,
do you think somebody too that's like behind, possibly like a big event, or a big company or something that like people know, that like how people with Oppenheimer, they know about the Manhattan Project, they know about the bomb, but they might not know about Oppenheimer. Or like sometimes people do like those stories in history where it's like, oh, this person did something that ended World War II, but we don't know about it.
Yeah, or like how Ben Affleck and Matt Damon did Air. Something like that, where it highlights somebody that's not in the spotlight and kind of tell the story. So I don't know exactly, but something like that where it's a not well-known story.
I like it.
And the last one, which is a fitting question. What is the goal of your podcast, and what are some goals for your podcast? I think for me, the goal of this podcast is just to create something with you, like we said. And if it becomes a point where we're doing it for other people or for the views or for the likes and we need to stop, it's really just a time for us to create something and to share just what our learnings and just our thoughts and kind of put those out into the world. And our goal would be to eventually get guests on and maybe grow the podcast to a place where we could have some bigger guests on. But I don't really have huge aspirations of making this famous.
I think one of my goals, like I'm very aware that we are, like I said, people that are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be kind of like almost like a time capsule for us. Like we're making these videos and who knows how long we'll do it, but possibly through other major changes in our lives and like as we start a family and stuff in the future. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how our views on life just as we get older and as we have more experiences change. And so we could look back and be like, wow, I don't know why I ever thought that. And then on a future podcast say something contradicts what we're saying now. But I think that's going to be cool to kind of look back and see like we have so many conversations together.
Yeah.
And this is like we get to record them and keep them forever.
Yeah.
So when we're old, we can look back and be like, look at us young people like talking about whatever. And just like, I also think it'll be just interesting. Like, who knows? Maybe we'll like add these clips in like a doc one day and be like, these were our thoughts on this topic then or whatever. So
agreed.
Really personal goals for our podcast. We can't do it for other people. So
no. Wow, those were some great questions.
Those are awesome. I don't remember any of them, actually.
Me either.
But hopefully y'all learned a little bit about, just started a country accent right there, but learned a little bit about us.
Yes.
Because I think
those are the couple questions.
More personal questions. Yeah. Would love to do a Q&A again.
Maybe live. What
is it you with this live thing?
I don't know.
Most podcasts aren't live, just the ones that you watch. Yeah, so hopefully we can do a Q&A again sometime. Why are you smiling?
Because this week my face isn't as red, hopefully.
No, but you did have 2 hives at the beginning. But I didn't want to say anything because then usually you'd start getting itchy. So anyways, skin issues, you know. But like I was saying, Bryce, we'd love to do a Q&A again, maybe in a couple weeks. Maybe we'll have some guests to do the Q&A. So start thinking of questions because we're going to ask again.
Yes. Hit those questions that you're afraid to ask, you know.
Yeah, you can start asking those questions now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll put up another anonymous thing because that's what you guys apparently like to ask questions on. So
also, if you want to be a guest or you know somebody that would be great on the show, message us.
Let us know. We're ready to have some guests on.
Yeah.
We're working out some dates with people. It's getting late now when I scream. Anyways. Thanks for watching. This is our very chaotic ending.
This is just a chaotic episode, period.
Thank you for watching episode 6. We will see you next week
on the Everyday Creative Podcast.
Like, subscribe, review,
follow,
do all the things.
Please give us a good review and rating.
Yeah.